Are you having a mental breakdown? Michael Torres, my direct supervisor at Anderson and Pierce Financial, stared at me like I'd just announced I was moving to Mars. You want to quit your VP position to sell tacos? I sat across from him in the glass-walled office on the 47th floor of downtown Los Angeles, the morning sun casting long shadows across his mahogany desk. My resignation letter lay between us, crisp white paper against dark wood. Not just tacos, I said, keeping my voice steady. Traditional Mexican street food. My grandmother's recipes. Michael leaned back in his leather chair, running a hand through his silver-streaked hair. Sophia, you make $200,000 a year. Your bonus last quarter was bigger than most people's annual salary. And you want to throw it all away for street food? My name is Sophia Reyes, and until that moment, I'd spent 8 years climbing the corporate ladder at one of LA's most prestigious financial firms. I had the corner office, the designer suits, the respect of my peers. Everything I thought I wanted when I graduated from Stanford Business School. Everything except happiness. I've made my decision, I said, standing up. My last day will be in 2 weeks. Michael shook his head. At least take some time to think about it. Maybe a vacation. I've thought about it for months. I straightened my blazer. A $2,000 piece of armor I wouldn't need much longer. Thank you for everything, Michael. As I walked back to my office, whispers followed. News traveled fast in corporate settings, especially news this bizarre. A VP of financial strategy leaving to start a food truck. It had to be a joke. By lunchtime, my inbox was flooded with messages from colleagues, ranging from concerned to condescending. Have you lost your mind? Wrote Sarah from marketing. Midlife crisis hitting early. Joked Brad from risk management. Hope you like being poor, added James, my former mentor. I closed my email and looked out my office window at the sprawling Los Angeles landscape below. Somewhere down there, my grandmother's small restaurant had once served the best Mexican food in the city. Before rising rents and changing demographics forced her to close, before she had to watch her life's work disappear. Mija, she told me on her deathbed 2 months ago, pressing a worn notebook into my hands. Promise me our recipes won't die with me. That notebook now sat in my desk drawer, its pages yellowed, but the handwriting still clear. Every recipe, every secret, every technique she'd learned from her mother and grandmother before her. 3 generations of culinary artistry, waiting to be reborn. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Diana. They're taking bets on how long you'll last before coming back begging for your job. Office pool is up to $5,000. I smiled. Let them bet. They didn't know what I knew. What they saw, an impulsive decision, a career suicide, a prestigious position abandoned for a pipe dream. What they couldn't see, 18 months of careful planning. The business plan I developed using the same skills I applied to multi-million-dollar corporate strategies. The market research showing a growing demand for authentic, high-quality street food. The savings account containing enough to sustain me for 2 years. And most importantly, they didn't see the test runs I'd been doing every weekend for the past year. Selling my grandmother's recipes at farmers markets under the name Abuela's Street Kitchen. They didn't know that I was already turning a profit, that I had a loyal following, that people drove from other cities just to taste our food. I pulled out my grandmother's notebook, running my fingers over the worn cover. Inside, along with the recipes, was a black and white photo from 1962. My grandmother standing proudly in front of her first restaurant, Rye's Authentic Mexican Kitchen. I'll make you proud, Abuela, I whispered. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of handover meetings and exit interviews. My colleagues alternated between treating me like I had terminal illness and making jokes about my future career serving corporate dropouts their lunch. On my last day, I cleared out my office while wearing jeans and a t-shirt, a small act of rebellion against 8 years of formal business attire. As I packed my awards and certificates into a box, Michael appeared in my doorway. "Last chance to change your mind," he said. "The position's yours until end of day." I shook my head. "I appreciate everything I've learned here, Michael, but this is something I need to do." He sighed. "Well, when it doesn't work out, give me a call, though I can't guarantee you'll come back at the same level." "Thank you," I said, not bothering to argue. "But I won't be coming back." As I walked through the office for the last time, carrying my box of belongings, I heard snickers and whispered comments. "There goes her career. Wonder how long before she regrets this. Have fun being poor." The last comment came from James, loud enough to ensure I heard it. I stopped and turned to face him, smiling. "You know what, James? I will have fun, because unlike you, I won't spend the next 20 years wondering what if." The elevator doors closed on his stunned expression, and just like that, my corporate career was over. But my real journey was just beginning. The following Monday, instead of putting on a power suit and heading to my climate-controlled office, I drove to a warehouse in East LA. Inside waited my investment in the future, a fully equipped food truck, gleaming silver in the early morning light. I'd spent the past month working with a custom food truck builder, designing every detail: state-of-the-art cooking equipment, efficient storage systems, and a service window large enough to let customers watch their food being prepared, just like they used to at my grandmother's restaurant. The exterior featured hand-painted artwork, vibrant colors, traditional Mexican designs, and my grandmother's portrait watching over everything. Above it all, in bold letters, "Abuela's Street Kitchen, authentic Mexican soul food." "Looking good, Jefa," called out Miguel, my first employee. He'd been my grandmother's sous chef for 15 years before her restaurant closed. Now at 62, he was ready to help bring her recipes back to life. "Ready for this?" I asked, unlocking the truck. He grinned, tying on his apron. "Been ready for years. Just waiting for you to realize this is where you belong." We spent that first morning prep cooking, following my grandmother's precise instructions. The marinades had to be made fresh daily. The salsas needed specific chili combinations. Every tortilla would be hand-pressed moments before cooking. By 11:30 a.m., we were parked in our designated spot near a cluster of office buildings in downtown LA, the same area where I used to spend $20 on mediocre salads for lunch. "Think anyone will come?" Miguel asked as we finished our final preparations. I checked my phone, pulling up the Instagram account I'd been building for months. The post announcing our location had over 500 likes. "They'll come." And they did. By noon, we had a line stretching around the corner. Word had spread through social media and the local foodie community. Everyone wanted to try the corporate VP turned food truck chef. I worked the window while Miguel handled the grill, greeting each customer personally, explaining the dishes, sharing stories about the recipes. Every plate that went out was a piece of my heritage, my grandmother's legacy. "Holy shit," breathed a man in an expensive suit after biting into our signature birria taco. "This is better than any Mexican food I've had in LA." "Tell your friends," I smiled, already preparing the next order. By 2 p.m., We'd sold out completely. My feet ached, my hair smelled like cooking oil, and my once manicured hands were stained with adobo sauce. I had never been happier. As we cleaned up for the day, Miguel nudged me. "Look who's here." I turned to see James and a group from Anderson and Pierce, standing across the street, staring at our truck with a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. They'd probably expected to find me struggling, maybe even regretting my decision. Instead, they saw a sold-out food truck and a line of disappointed customers asking when we'd be back tomorrow. I waved at them, genuine smile on my face. James turned away quickly, herding his group back toward their office. That evening, as I counted our first day's earnings, nearly triple what I'd projected, my phone buzzed with a text from Diana. "Office is buzzing. Someone posted a review of your food on the company's Slack. They can't believe it's actually good." I laughed, then opened my grandmother's notebook to review tomorrow's prep list. On the inside cover, she'd written a message I'd never noticed before. "Success isn't about where you work, Mija. It's about putting your heart into what you do." As I planned out our next day's menu, I realized something. For the first time in my career, I wasn't watching the clock or dreading Monday mornings. I was excited to get up and work, eager to serve each customer, proud of every dish we created. They thought I was crazy to leave a six-figure job for a food truck. But what they didn't understand was that some dreams are worth more than a steady paycheck. And this was just the beginning. 3 months after leaving Anderson and Pierce, I sat at my small home office desk reviewing our numbers. The laptop screen glowed in the early morning darkness, spreadsheets replacing the financial models I once created for billion-dollar corporations. But these numbers told a different story, one of exponential growth. Abuela's street kitchen had not just survived, it had exploded. Our daily revenue was triple my initial projections. We'd added a second truck within the first month, then a third 6 weeks later. Each one consistently sold out. My phone buzzed, a message from Louis, my newest hire, running truck number 3. Line already forming at USC. Students spreading the word about the breakfast burritos. I smiled, remembering how my grandmother used to say good food doesn't need advertising. Word of mouth was our only marketing, yet each location had regulars who showed up daily, bringing friends, sharing photos on social media. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in." Diana walked in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. After seeing our success, she'd quit her own corporate job to help manage our growing operation. "You need to see this," she said, setting down the coffee and pulling up something on her phone. "Someone just posted about us on LA Food Scene's Instagram." The post showed our original truck, line wrapped around the block. From corporate DP to food truck queen, how Sophia Reyes is revolutionizing LA's street food scene. Not just authentic Mexican food, but a powerful story of choosing passion over prestige. "That's not all," Diana continued, scrolling. 3 major food festivals want us as featured vendors. The LA Times wants to do a profile." And she paused for effect. The Food Network called. I leaned back in my chair, thinking about how much had changed in just 3 months. We now had 15 employees, all paid above industry standard with health benefits, something I'd insisted on from the start. Many were family members of former workers from my grandmother's restaurant, carrying on her legacy of authentic cuisine. "There's something else," Diana said, her tone shifting. "Anderson and Pierce's new building, the one they're moving to next month, they want us to be the primary lunch vendor in their corporate plaza." I nearly choked on my coffee. "You're kidding." Got the email this morning. Apparently, half their employees have been walking 6 blocks to catch our trucks. Management finally caved. The irony was almost too perfect. The same company that had mocked my decision now wanted to partner with us. My phone buzzed again. Miguel. Need to talk. Supply issue with the tortilla masa. Vendor can't keep up with our volume. And there it was, the daily reminder that success brings its own challenges. We'd grown so fast that our suppliers were struggling to meet our demand for the high-quality, specific ingredients my grandmother's recipes required. One problem at a time, I muttered, pulling up our vendor contacts. Call everyone for a team meeting at 2 p.m. We need to discuss expansion strategy. By noon, I was at our commissary kitchen, a space we'd rented for prep work and storage. The energy was electric as our prep teams worked, music playing, aromas of chilies and spices filling the air. Chefa, called out Carmen, our head prep cook. Come taste this new salsa verde. I added episode like your grandmother's notes suggested. I sampled the salsa, closing my eyes as flavors exploded across my tongue. Perfect. Abuela would be proud. Sophia. Diana rushed in, waving her phone. You need to see what's happening downtown. She pulled up a live Instagram story. James, my former mentor from Anderson and Pierce, was doing a walking food review. He stood in line at our truck, speaking to the camera. Yes, this is the same food truck started by my former VP, he said, trying to sound casual. The one we all thought was crazy. Well, he held up a half-eaten birria taco. I hate to admit it, but this might be the best decision she ever made. This food is incredible. The comments were flowing. Wait, a VP quit to start this. Best tacos in LA. Can't believe corporate didn't see this coming. He's been in line 3 times this week. Diana grinned. Pretty sure he's becoming a regular. The afternoon team meeting filled our small office space. 15 people crammed in, each bringing updates and challenges. The USC location is overwhelming Truck 3, Lewis reported. Students are trying to pre-order through Instagram. Downtown wants us to add breakfast service, added Alina from Truck 2. They're offering to fast-track the permits. Our tortilla supplier can't scale up, Miguel confirmed. Says they'd need new equipment to meet our volume. I looked around the room at these people who'd taken a chance on my vision. Some had left stable jobs. Others had come out of retirement. All believed in bringing my grandmother's recipes to a new generation. Okay, I said, pulling out my grandmother's notebook. Let's solve this one step at a time. First, the supply issue. Miguel, remember how Abuela used to make tortillas? He grinned. In-house, old-school method. What if we did that? Convert part of the commissary into a tortilla production facility. Diana was already calculating. Initial equipment cost would be high, but we control quality and supply chain. Do it, I decided. Get bids for the equipment. Next, expansion. We're turning away too much business. Time to add trucks 4 and 5. Luis, Alina, start recruiting and training teams. What about the Anderson and Pierce offer? Diana asked. The room went quiet. Everyone knew the story of my departure. I smiled. Tell them we'll consider it, at premium pricing, and we want Signage telling our story. As the meeting wrapped up, I held up my grandmother's notebook. One more thing. Next week marks what would have been Abuela's 80th birthday. In her honor, we're doing something special. I outlined my plan. One day of original menu prices from her 1962 restaurant. Every truck would serve her signature dishes exactly as she made them. We'd lose money that day, but it wasn't about profit. Start promoting it tomorrow, I told Diana. Let's show Lyle what real Mexican soul food means. That evening, after everyone had left, I sat alone in the commissary kitchen. The space still smelled of chiles and spices, echoing with the day's energy. My phone showed missed calls from 3 different restaurant groups wanting to discuss partnerships. The Food Network had emailed again about a possible show. A major business magazine wanted to profile the VP who traded Wall Street for street food. I opened my grandmother's notebook, finding a photo of her in front of her first restaurant. Next to it, I'd pinned a recent photo of our first food truck, lines of people waiting eagerly. Did you know, Abuela? I whispered. Did you know this is what would happen when you gave me these recipes? A new message popped up. A customer review with a photo. Brought my abuela here today. She cried because it reminded her of home. Thank you for keeping traditions alive. I wiped tears from my eyes, then started planning tomorrow's menu. Because success isn't just about profits or headlines. It's about honoring where you come from while building something new. And we were just getting started. 1 year after walking away from my 6-figure corporate job, I stood on the rooftop of our new headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. The morning sun glinted off a fleet of 20 food trucks in the parking lot below, each bearing the now famous Abuela's Street Kitchen logo. The numbers are in, Diana said, joining me at the railing. Last month's revenue hit $4.2 million. The valuation report puts us at just over $50 million. I smiled, remembering James's mocking words. Have fun being poor. Anderson and Pierce's current market cap was $42 million, and they were struggling. Turned out their new building's food court, which they'd hoped would feature our trucks, remained empty. We declined their offer, instead opening our own brick-and-mortar restaurant just 2 blocks away. The Wall Street Journal piece just dropped. Diana held up her phone. Want to read it? The headline caught my eye. From corporate dropout to culinary empire. How one woman's food truck revolution is reshaping the industry. But before I could read more, Miguel burst through the roof access door. Sophia, you need to come see this. We followed him down to the test kitchen, where our development team worked on new recipes and trained staff. A crowd had gathered around one of the prep stations. In the center stood Carmen, tears streaming down her face, holding her phone on video chat. On the screen, I recognized her grandmother, one of my grandmother's oldest friends. Senora Maria. I pushed forward. What's wrong? The elderly woman was also crying, but smiling. Sofia Maniga. I just saw your trucks in Mexico City. My grandson sent me pictures. Your abuela's recipes, her legacy. It's come home. My heart skipped. Our international expansion had started 3 months ago, carefully selecting partners who would maintain our standards and traditions. Mexico City was our first location outside the U.S., and it meant everything to honor the cuisine's origins. 20 trucks in Mexico City, Diana whispered. All sold out by 2 p.m. their first day. I touched the screen gently. Senora Maria, those recipes, they're your history too. All of yours. I looked around at our staff, many of them children and grandchildren of my grandmother's original restaurant workers. This success belongs to all of us. The afternoon brought another surprise. A sleek black car pulled up to our headquarters, and out stepped Michael Torres, my former supervisor from Anderson and Pierce. Sophia, he called out as I met him in the lobby. Got a minute? We sat in my office, not a glass-walled corporate showpiece, but a warm space filled with family photos and cooking awards. My grandmother's original notebook sat in a glass display case on the wall, next to her first restaurant sign. "I'll be direct," Michael said, looking uncomfortable. "I'm leaving Anderson and Pierce. The company's downsizing." And he hesitated. I was hoping to discuss opportunities here. I leaned back in my chair, remembering his words from a year ago. "When it doesn't work out, give me a call." "What kind of opportunities did you have in mind?" He straightened his tie. "I have 20 years of corporate finance experience. Your company's growing exponentially. You need someone to manage that growth." "Actually," I smiled, "we have someone amazing handling our finances." I pressed the intercom. "Diana, can you join us?" Diana walked in, recognition flashing across her face. "Hello, Michael. You remember Diana Martinez?" My former colleague who everyone said was throwing away her career to join a food truck business. "She's our CFO now. Just closed our series of funding round. Very successfully." Michael's face fell slightly. "I see. Well, perhaps there are other positions." "We're always hiring line cooks," I said kindly. "Starting pay is $25 an hour, full benefits, profit sharing. We believe in valuing everyone who contributes to our success." He stood up quickly. "I should go. Congratulations on everything, Sophia. You proved us all wrong." After he left, Diana burst out laughing. "Did you see his face? Remember when he said you'd be serving corporate dropouts their lunch? Now we're employing them instead." The next morning, I arrived early at our flagship restaurant, the same location where my grandmother's original place had stood. We bought the building 6 months ago, renovating it to match her old photos while adding modern touches. Inside, prep teams were already working. The tortilla facility hummed next door, producing thousands of fresh tortillas daily. Upstairs, our culinary training program was in session, teaching new employees not just cooking skills, but the history behind each dish. My phone buzzed. A message from our Mexico City partner. "Lines around the block again. When can we add more trucks?" Before I could reply, Diana rushed in. "Sophia, you need to turn on CNBC right now." We huddled around the office TV as the business news anchor spoke. In a surprising turn of events, Anderson and Pierce Financial announced major layoffs today as their stock hit a 5-year low. Meanwhile, former VP Sophia Rice's Abuela's Kitchen empire continues its explosive growth. Sources value the company at over $50 million. With international expansion accelerating, they cut to a clip of James, my former mentor, being interviewed outside Anderson and Pierce's building. "Looking back," he said, "looking tired. We were too focused on traditional metrics. We missed the bigger picture." Sophia saw where the real opportunity was. She didn't just start a food business, she created a movement. I turned off the TV, thinking about how much had changed in 1 year. We now employed over 200 people across our operations. Our culinary training program was sending graduates to top restaurants nationwide. We'd launched a foundation to help other immigrant-owned food businesses preserve their traditional recipes and methods. "Sophia," Miguel called from the kitchen, "come taste this." He stood at the prep station, an old photo propped up next to him. In it, he and my grandmother worked side by side in her original kitchen. I found another note in her recipe files. He said, stirring a pot of something that smelled incredible, a variation of the birria she never got to try. I tasted it, closing my eyes as flavors danced across my tongue. It's perfect. Put it on tomorrow's special board. Call it Abuela's Dream. Later that evening, after the dinner rush, I sat in my grandmother's old office, now restored to look just as it had in the 60s. Her notebooks filled a shelf, their wisdom still guiding us. But next to them sat new notebooks, filled with our own innovations and adaptations. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. A young woman stood there, nervous but determined. "Ms. Reyes? I just quit my consulting job to start a Korean food truck. Everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I was hoping I could get your advice." I smiled, gesturing for her to sit down. "Let me tell you a story about choosing passion over prestige." My phone buzzed again. Forbes this time, wanting to feature us in their 30 Under 30 issue. Diana poked her head in with more updates. 3 new cities requesting franchise rights, a potential TV deal, and a major food supplier wanting to partner on our sauces and marinades. But those could wait. Right now, I had a different priority: helping another dreamer find the courage to bet on herself. Because success isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving that when you honor your heritage, trust your instincts, and refuse to let others define your worth, anything is possible. As I looked out at our busy restaurant, watched our trucks return from another successful day, and thought about all the lives we touched, I knew my grandmother would be proud. Not just of the empire we built, but of how we built it. With heart, with authenticity, and with a commitment to lifting others as we rose. The corporate world had laughed when I chose a food truck over a corner office. Now they were studying our business model, trying to understand how a simple food truck had transformed into a $50 million enterprise in just 1 year. But I knew the secret wasn't in the business metrics. It was in every handmade tortilla, every family recipe, every employee who felt valued, and every customer who tasted not just food, but tradition, love, and the courage to follow your dreams. "Have fun being poor," they'd said. I was having fun all right, building something far richer than money could measure. And this was still just the beginning. When people walked past me in the halls of Riverstone Technologies, their eyes would slide right over me, like I was part of the furniture. Just another shadow in a gray uniform, pushing a cleaning cart through their gleaming offices. That's the thing about being a janitor. You become invisible, but invisibility has its advantages, especially when you're building an empire right under their noses. My name is Marcus Torres, and for 5 years, I cleaned the offices of the most arrogant tech executives in Seattle while secretly running a software company that would eventually make them all look like fools. It started on a rainy Tuesday evening in 2018. I was emptying the trash in Bradley Morrison's corner office, the CEO who loved to remind everyone of his Harvard MBA, when I noticed a document left open on his desk. A software development contract worth $2.3 million for a basic inventory management system. The kind of system I could build in my sleep. You see, before life threw me some curveballs, I had a master's in computer science from MIT, but a family crisis, a sick mother, and mounting medical bills had forced me to take whatever work I could find. The janitorial position at Riverstone paid reliably and offered health insurance. More importantly, the night shift gave me my days free to work on my own projects. That contract became my inspiration. If Riverstone could charge millions for basic software, why couldn't I? I had the skills, the knowledge, and now I had something else: insight into exactly what major companies were willing to pay for. Every night, as I cleaned their offices, I listened and learned. Executives would often work late, having loud conversations on speakerphone about their clients' needs, their pricing strategies, their pain points. They never noticed me. Why would they? I was just the guy emptying their trash, cleaning their coffee stains, dusting their awards. "Make sure you get that corner," Bradley would say without looking up from his screen, waving vaguely at some imagined dirt. His tone always carried that special kind of condescension reserved for people he considered beneath him. His assistant, Melissa, was worse. "The janitor doesn't understand English very well," she'd tell visitors with a stage whisper, assuming my brown skin meant I was an immigrant. I never corrected her. Let them underestimate me. I spoke 4 languages fluently and was coding complex algorithms while they were still learning their ABCs. During my days, I built my company, Taurus Solutions. Working from my small apartment, I developed software that was faster, more intuitive, and far more sophisticated than anything Riverstone was selling. My first client came through an online freelancing platform. A small manufacturing company needed an inventory system. I charged them 1/10 of what Riverstone would have, delivered in half the time. That first success led to another, then another. I reinvested every penny into the business, living frugally in my 1-bedroom apartment, driving my old Toyota, and maintaining my janitor position. Not just for the steady paycheck, but for the invaluable market intelligence. We lost the McKinley contract. I overheard Bradley telling his board one evening while I mopped the conference room floor. They said our pricing was too high and our technology too outdated. I smiled to myself. I knew exactly who had won that contract: Taurus Solutions. My company had been operating under my mother's maiden name, Silva Technologies, to avoid any connection to the quiet janitor at Riverstone. By my 3rd year pushing that cleaning cart through their halls, my company had grown to 15 employees, all working remotely, none knowing their CEO spent his nights cleaning offices. We had clients across 3 continents, a revolutionary cloud-based enterprise system, and a reputation for excellence. Still, I kept working at Riverstone, kept listening, learning, and watching as they slowly lost market share to this mysterious new competitor they couldn't quite figure out. "Silva Technologies is eating our lunch," Bradley ranted one evening, pacing his office while I cleaned his windows. "Their software is better, faster, and they're undercutting us at every turn. How the hell are they doing it?" I had to turn away to hide my smile. If he only knew the answer was right there, Windex bottle in hand, making his windows sparkle. The real turning point came during their annual company party. I wasn't invited, of course, but I was there anyway, refilling water pitchers and clearing away plates. Bradley had too much to drink and was holding court near the bar. "Let me tell you the secret to success," he announced to a group of young employees. "It's about knowing your place in the world. Take our janitor here." He gestured vaguely in my direction. "Some people are meant to clean floors, and some are meant to run companies. That's just how the world works." The group laughed, that uncomfortable laugh people use when they know something isn't right, but don't have the courage to say so. I memorized each of their faces. They would learn soon enough how wrong Bradley was. That night, after my shift, I sat in my car in the empty parking lot and made a call to my board of directors. Successful industry veterans who had invested in Taurus Solutions but had never met me in person. "It's time," I told them. "Let's make an offer on the Riverstone building." The piece of paper that would change everything arrived 3 weeks later, delivered to Bradley Morrison's desk in a thick envelope right before I started my evening shift. I made sure I was cleaning nearby when he opened it. His face turned pale as he read, then red with anger. "This has to be a joke," he sputtered, storming out to the main office area. "Silva Technologies just bought our building. They're our new landlord." I continued cleaning, hiding my satisfaction as chaos erupted around me. Soon they would all know exactly who owned Silva Technologies. Soon they would understand that the man they had looked down on for years was about to become not just their landlord, but their biggest competitor. The next morning would bring a reckoning none of them saw coming, and I would finally reveal that success isn't about knowing your place, it's about creating it, even if you have to start with a mop in your hands. The morning of the revelation, I arrived at Riverstone Technologies dressed differently than usual. Instead of my gray janitor's uniform, I wore a tailored charcoal suit that cost more than Bradley Morrison made in a month. The security guard at the front desk, who had barely glanced at me for 5 years, did a double take. "Sir, can I help you?" he asked, not recognizing the man who had nodded hello to him every evening for half a decade. I smiled, pulling out my ID. "Marcus Torres, CEO of Silva Technologies. I believe you received a memo about our representatives arriving this morning." His eyes widened as recognition slowly dawned. "Wait, aren't you?" "Yes, James," I said, using his first name, something that made him blink in surprise. "I'm also the night janitor. Or I was, until yesterday. I've already submitted my resignation letter to the facilities management company." I left him staring after me as I walked to the elevator, my leather shoes clicking against the marble floor instead of the quiet squeak of my work boots. The same elevator I had cleaned thousands of times now carried me upward, my reflection in its polished walls showing a man stepping fully into his power. The office was already buzzing when I stepped out onto the executive floor. News of Silva Technologies buying the building had spread like wildfire, and a crowd had gathered near Bradley's office. Through the glass walls, I could see him gesturing angrily on a phone call. Melissa, his assistant, was the first to spot me. "Excuse me, this area is for..." Her voice trailed off as she squinted at me. "Do I know you?" "You do," I replied calmly, "although you usually tell visitors I don't understand English very well." The color drained from her face. Several heads turned in our direction as recognition rippled through the crowd. Bradley, noticing the sudden silence, looked up from his phone call. Our eyes met through the glass wall, and I saw the exact moment understanding hit him. He dropped his phone. "Security," he shouted, rushing out of his office. "What is the meaning of this?" I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. "The meaning is quite simple, Mr. Morrison. As your new landlord, I'm here to discuss some changes to the building's management structure. But first, I believe proper introductions are in order. I am Marcus Torres, CEO of Silva Technologies, or as you know us, the company that's been eating your lunch for the past 2 years. I gestured to the gathering crowd. Most of you know me better as the night janitor who's been cleaning your offices, collecting your trash, and apparently not understanding English. The silence was deafening. Bradley's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "This is impossible," he sputtered. "You're a janitor." "Correction," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the stunned office. "I was a janitor. I'm also an MIT graduate with a master's in computer science, fluent in 4 languages, and the founder of a company currently valued at $300 million. And thanks to all of you, I had the perfect market research laboratory right here." Melissa had sunk into her chair, looking like she might faint. Others were whispering furiously, some looking ashamed, others incredulous. I noticed Janet from accounting, one of the few who had always treated me with kindness, trying to hide a smile. Every time you discussed pricing strategies in front of me, every time you complained about lost contracts, every time you bragged about overcharging clients for subpar software, you gave me invaluable insights. I turned to Bradley. You were right about one thing, though. Success is about knowing your place in the world. I just decided not to accept the place you thought I should stay in. This is a trick, Bradley declared, but his voice wavered. A publicity stunt. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number on speaker. Mr. Williams, could you please join us? A minute later, Thomas Williams, my company's well-known CFO and board member, stepped out of the elevator. Good morning, Marcus, he said warmly, then turned to address the crowd. I assume you're all meeting our CEO properly for the first time. I must say, his understanding of market dynamics and customer needs is unparalleled. Though I never did understand why he insisted on keeping his identity quiet for so long. Bradley had collapsed into a chair, his face ashen. The contracts, the McKinley account. That was you. I nodded. Along with the Peterson Group, Western Dynamics, and about 30 other former Riverstone clients. Turns out people prefer working with a company that respects everyone, regardless of their position. You can't do this, Bradley whispered, but the fight had gone out of his voice. You can't just walk in here and... Actually, I can, I interrupted. As your new landlord, I'm exercising my right to review all tenant situations. And given Riverstone's declining market position and late rent payments for the past 3 months, we have some decisions to make. The whispers turned to gasps. Few people knew about the late payments. I had seen the notices while cleaning the accounting department. We're making changes to the building's operational structure, I continued. First, all janitorial staff will receive a significant pay increase and full benefits. Second, any company renting space in this building must maintain strict ethical standards in their treatment of all employees, regardless of position. I turned to face the crowd directly. And finally, Riverstone Technologies has 30 days to either meet these new standards or find new office space. I hear there are some nice vacancies in the industrial district. Bradley jumped up. You can't evict us. We'll sue. Thomas stepped forward, his legal background evident in his calm demeanor. Everything is perfectly legal, Mr. Morrison. We can provide you with all the necessary documentation. Though I wouldn't recommend a legal battle, our evidence of discriminatory practices and toxic workplace culture is quite extensive. I walked to the window, looking out at the Seattle skyline. 5 years ago, I took this job out of necessity. I needed the health insurance to help care for my sick mother. But I stayed because you all taught me something valuable. Success isn't just about building something better. It's about changing the system that keeps people down. Turning back to the stunned faces, I smiled. Now, shall we discuss your new lease terms? Or would you prefer to start looking for new office space? The next few hours were a blur of meetings, legal discussions, and shocked conversations. Word spread through the building like electricity. The janitor who had quietly cleaned their offices for years was actually a successful CEO who now owned the building. Every snide comment, every dismissive gesture, every moment of condescension had been witnessed and remembered by someone they never thought would hold power over them. By afternoon, Bradley had retreated to his office, frantically calling investors and board members. Melissa had taken a sick day and gone home. But others, especially those who had shown me kindness over the years, came forward with congratulations and, in some cases, job applications. As I sat in my car that evening, looking up at the building I now owned, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Your father would have been so proud," she wrote. "He always said success was the best revenge." I smiled, thinking of all the nights I had pushed that cleaning cart through these halls, dreaming of this moment. But now that it had arrived, I realized something important. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about transformation. Not just of my own life, but of a system that too often judges people by their current position rather than their potential. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There would be legal threats from Bradley, attempts to discredit me, and the massive task of restructuring both the building's management and my growing company. But for now, I savored the quiet satisfaction of having shown them all that sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one they don't even see. The real work was just beginning, and this time, I wouldn't be the one cleaning up their messes. 6 months after my revelation as the owner of Silva Technologies, I stood in what used to be Bradley Morrison's corner office, watching the Seattle sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. The space looked different now. Gone were the pretentious awards and self-congratulatory photos, replaced by a collaborative workspace where my team could gather and innovate. The changes in the building had been dramatic, but not in the way most people expected. Despite having every right to evict Riverstone Technologies, I had offered them a chance to stay, under new management and with very specific conditions. Bradley, predictably, hadn't taken it well. The day after my revelation, he had stormed into my temporary office, previously the janitor's break room, which I had specifically chosen for its symbolism, with 2 lawyers in tow. "This is corporate espionage," he had blustered, throwing a thick folder on my desk. "We're suing you for every penny you have." I had simply smiled and pressed play on my laptop, showing security camera footage of him berating staff, making discriminatory comments, and discussing questionable business practices, all recorded during my years as the invisible janitor in the background. "Would you like me to play the audio of you instructing Melissa to falsify billing records for the Anderson account?" I had asked calmly. "Or perhaps the conversation where you bragged about overcharging clients for outdated software?" His lawyers had exchanged glances and quietly suggested they reassess their strategy. Bradley had resigned the following week, though he insisted it was to pursue other opportunities. The real surprise had come from Riverstone's board of directors. After reviewing the evidence I had gathered and seeing the innovation potential of Silva Technologies, they had proposed a merger. Not a hostile takeover, but a true partnership that would preserve jobs while transforming the company culture. "Your experience gives you a unique perspective," the board chairman had said. "You've seen this company from both the bottom and the top. Who better to lead us into the future?" I had accepted, but on my terms. The first order of business? A complete overhaul of employee compensation and treatment, starting with the cleaning and maintenance staff. Every person who worked in the building, regardless of position, would receive living wages, full benefits, and respect. Janet from accounting had been promoted to CFO after her detailed knowledge of the company's finances proved invaluable during the transition. She had been one of the few who had always seen people for their potential rather than their position. Melissa, surprisingly, had asked to stay. "I want to learn to be better," she had said, her usual arrogance replaced by genuine remorse. I was wrong about, well, everything. She now ran our diversity and inclusion training program, using her own past behavior as an example of what needed to change. The McKinley contract, which had been one of our biggest points of contention with Riverstone, had expanded under the merged company's new direction. We chose Silva Technologies because they understood value isn't just about price, their CEO had told me. Now we see it was also about values. My mother's health had improved, thanks to the advanced medical care I could now provide. She had moved into a comfortable house near the office, and every Friday we had dinner together, often joined by my team members who had become like family. "Remember when you used to come home exhausted from cleaning all night?" she asked one evening. "Look at you now, Mahijo. You didn't just build a company, you built a legacy." That legacy became clearer 1 year after the merger when I received an email from a young woman named Sophia, a custodian working her way through engineering school. "I heard your story," she wrote. "Yesterday, one of the executives saw me reading a coding book during my lunch break. Instead of laughing, she asked about my studies and offered me an internship. She said you taught them to look for talent everywhere." The email had brought tears to my eyes. This was why I had maintained my cover for so long, gathering evidence not just of wrongdoing, but of the systemic biases that needed to change. Today, as I prepared for our annual company meeting, I thought about how far we come. The merged company, now called Taurus Stone Innovation Group, had tripled in value. Our software was still the best in the industry, but our real innovation had been in creating a corporate culture that valued every contributor. The meeting room filled with employees from all levels of the company. The old hierarchy that had once separated important people from the help had disappeared. Our head of UX design had started in the mailroom. Our newest board member had previously worked as a parking attendant while earning his MBA. "Good morning," I began, looking out at the faces before me. Today marks 1 year since our merger, but more importantly, it marks 1 year since we began proving that success doesn't belong to any one group of people. It belongs to those who persist, regardless of their starting point. I gestured to the cleaning cart I had rolled onto the stage, the same one I had pushed through these halls for 5 years. Some of you know this cart well. I kept it as a reminder that dignity isn't given by position. It's inherent in every person who shows up and does their best work, whatever that work may be. The room was silent, many nodding in understanding. Last quarter, our profits exceeded projections by 45%. Our employee satisfaction scores are the highest in the industry. And just yesterday, Forbes magazine named us one of the best companies to work for, specifically citing our practice of promoting from within and recognizing potential in unexpected places. I smiled, thinking of Bradley and his beliefs about people knowing their place. But our real success isn't in the numbers. It's in the stories I hear every day. The security guard who's now leading our cybersecurity team. The receptionist who identified a way to streamline our client communication and is now our head of customer experience. The janitor who? Well, you all know that story. Laughter rippled through the room. We're not just a technology company. We're proof that the greatest untapped resource in any organization is the human potential they fail to see. Success isn't about knowing your place. It's about refusing to let others define your limits. After the meeting, I walked through the office floors, greeting people by name, something Bradley had never bothered to do. The building felt different now, alive with possibility, rather than weighted by hierarchy. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Bradley Morrison's new venture files for bankruptcy. I felt no satisfaction, only a quiet acknowledgement that success built on demeaning others was always built on sand. That evening, as I prepared to leave the office, I passed the janitor's closet where I had once changed into my uniform every night. A new plaque hung on the door. From this space, a revolution in corporate culture began. Every position has power. Every person has potential. I smiled, remembering all the nights I had stood in that small room. dreaming of the day I would transform this company. Those dreams had come true, but in a way I hadn't expected. Yes, I had become successful, but more importantly, I had created a path for others to follow. As I walked to my car, I passed James, the security guard who had first witnessed my transformation from janitor to CEO. He was helping a young maintenance worker with some computer coding questions. "Mr. Torres," James called out. "Remember how you said success is about creating opportunities?" I nodded. "Well, Marco here is a programming genius. I think you'll want to see what he's been working on." I smiled, recognizing the look of determination in Marco's eyes, the same look I had carried for 5 years. "Let's talk tomorrow," I said. "My office is always open." Driving home, I thought about how true success isn't in proving others wrong. It's in proving that their entire system of judgment was flawed from the start. Every night, people like Marco clean offices, serve food, guard buildings, and dream of something more. They don't need pity or handouts. They need what everyone needs: a chance to show their true potential. I had done more than build $1 million company. I had created a place where the next Marcus Torres wouldn't have to spend 5 years pretending to be less than they were. And that, more than any revenue number or market share, was the real measure of success. Fresh blood. William Barrett, CEO of Summit Industries, smiled across the mahogany boardroom table. That's what this company needs. New perspectives, young energy. I sat motionless in my chair, the quarterly report I'd just presented still displayed on the screen behind me. Our best quarter in company history. Revenue up 32%. Client satisfaction at record highs. All under my leadership as Director of Operations. And I was being replaced by a 26-year-old who'd never held a real job in his life. "Alex has some innovative ideas," William continued, patting his son's shoulder. "Harvard MBA, internships at top firms. He's exactly what Summit needs to move into the future." Alex Barrett slouched in his Italian suit, scrolling through his phone. He hadn't bothered to look up during my entire presentation. "Of course," I said carefully, "I'd be happy to help with the transition." William waved his hand dismissively. "No need, Catherine. Alex starts Monday. We'll need you to clear out your office by end of day Friday. My name is Catherine Mitchell, and until that moment, I'd spent 12 years building Summit Industries into one of the leading technology consulting firms in Boston. I'd started as a junior analyst, worked my way up through pure merit, and transformed our operations from regional to national. Most importantly, I'd personally secured and maintained our relationship with Maxwell Technologies, the client that represented 40% of our annual revenue. But none of that mattered now, because William Barrett's son needed a job worthy of his Harvard MBA. The board's unanimous decision, William added, as if reading my thoughts, "will provide 6 months severance, of course." Very generous. The other board members avoided my eyes. They'd watched me grow this company from $10 million to $100 million in annual revenue. Now they were throwing me aside for nepotism. "I understand," I said, gathering my papers. "I'll have everything ready for Alex by Friday." As I walked to my office, whispers followed. News would spread fast. Catherine Mitchell, the company's rising star, pushed out for the CEO's son. My phone buzzed. A message from David Turner, my deputy director. "Just heard. This is insane. What are they thinking?" I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I sat at my desk, looking out over the Boston skyline I'd watched change over 12 years. The corner office I'd earned through countless late nights and impossible deadlines. Another message popped up, this one from Linda Zhu at Maxwell Technologies. Quarterly review meeting next week. Need to discuss the new AI integration project. Maxwell Technologies, our biggest client. The company that had trusted me personally with their $50 million digital transformation initiative. The client that Alex Barrett, with his 0 years of actual experience, would now be responsible for managing. I smiled for the first time since the board meeting. Because what William Barrett and the board didn't know was that I'd seen this coming 3 months ago. The whispered conversations, the sudden inclusion of Alex in high-level meetings, the way William had started questioning my every decision. I'd prepared accordingly. Opening my drawer, I pulled out a sleek business card I'd received at last month's tech conference. Victoria Santos, CEO, Quantum Solutions. Quantum was our biggest competitor. They'd been trying to poach me for years, but I'd always declined out of loyalty to Summit. Victoria's latest offer had been different though, not just a director position, but full autonomy to build my own division. I kept her card, just in case. Now I pulled out my phone and dialed. Catherine. Victoria answered on the first ring. I was hoping you'd call. That position's still open. For you? Always. I heard what happened at Summit. Their loss is our gain. I looked at the family photos on my desk. Not personal memories. They were staged photos of the Barretts, which William had insisted every executive display. Time to pack those away first. When can we meet? How about dinner tonight? I have some ideas I think you'll find interesting. I agreed to meet at 7 p.m., then started methodically preparing for my departure. But this wouldn't be the typical executive exit, quietly disappearing with a severance package and non-compete agreement. No, Summit Industries was about to learn a very expensive lesson about valuing the wrong things. My phone buzzed again. Linda from Maxwell. Everything okay? Hearing strange rumors about leadership changes at Summit. Let's have coffee tomorrow, I replied. There are some things we should discuss. By evening, I'd filled 3 boxes with personal items but left all client files exactly as they were. Alex Barrett would need them, not that he'd understand half of what he was looking at. David appeared in my doorway as I was packing the last box. They're making a huge mistake, he said, closing the door behind him. The team's in shock. Nobody can believe they're replacing you with him. I gestured for him to sit. How's morale? Terrible. Sarah's already talking about leaving. Mike's updating his LinkedIn. Everyone knows if they'd push you out, none of us are safe. I nodded slowly. Keep me posted. And David? Don't do anything rash. Not yet. He understood my meaning, nodding slightly before leaving. At 7 p.m., I walked into Sorellina, one of Boston's finest Italian restaurants. Victoria Santos already had a corner table, a bottle of wine breathing beside her. Catherine, she stood to greet me, elegant in a perfectly tailored suit. Thank you for finally accepting my dinner invitation. We ordered, making small talk until the appetizers arrived. Then Victoria leaned forward, her expression turning serious. Here's what I'm thinking, she said. We create a new division at Quantum, specifically focused on enterprise digital transformation. You bring your expertise, your methodology, and, she smiled, any clients who might want to follow you. Interesting proposal, I said carefully. Though my contract has certain non-compete clauses. Victoria's smile widened. Already reviewed by our legal team. The clauses are limited to specific technologies, not general consulting services. and they can't prevent clients from choosing their preferred partners. I took a sip of wine, thinking about Maxwell Technologies' upcoming AI integration project, the one Alex Barrett wouldn't have the faintest idea how to handle. I'll need autonomy, I said. My team, my methods, of course, and a significant equity stake in the new division. When can I start? Victoria pulled out a folder containing a contract. How about Monday? I read through the documents carefully. The terms were excellent. Better salary, better benefits, and most importantly, real authority to build something new. One more thing, Victoria added as I signed. We're announcing the new division next week. Care to guess who our first major client might be? I smiled, thinking of my coffee meeting with Linda tomorrow. I might have some ideas. That night, as I drove home past Summit's offices, I thought about William Barrett's condescending smile. Fresh blood, he'd said, not realizing he was about to learn a very expensive lesson about the difference between nepotism and real leadership. My phone buzzed. A message from David. Alex just sent an email to the whole team, full of corporate buzzwords and zero substance. Called himself our new visionary leader. People are already taking bets on how long before he crashes and burns. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and began drafting an email to Linda at Maxwell, outlining some concerns about Summit's new leadership and their ability to handle complex technical projects. By Friday, I'd clear out my office as requested. But by Monday, Summit Industries would begin discovering exactly what they'd lost and what their competitors had gained. They wanted fresh blood. They were about to get it, just not in the way they expected. The game was only beginning. Linda Zhao from Maxwell Technologies was already waiting when I arrived at Thinking Cup Coffee the next morning. She'd chosen a quiet corner table, 2 steaming lattes waiting. Okay, she said as I sat down. What's really going on at Summit? Because Alex Barrett just sent me the most incomprehensible email I've ever read about synergistic value propositions and paradigm-shifting methodologies. I took a sip of coffee, choosing my words carefully. Summit is making some leadership changes. They're replacing you. It wasn't a question. With the CEO's son, who has zero experience in enterprise technology integration. The board wants fresh perspectives. Linda's eyes narrowed. She hadn't become CTO of a Fortune 500 company by missing subtle signals. We have a $50 million AI integration project starting next month. One that you personally designed the implementation strategy for. I nodded, pulling out a folder. Which is why I wanted to meet. There are some concerns you should be aware of. For the next hour, we discussed the technical complexities of Maxwell's upcoming project. The custom frameworks I'd developed, the integration points that required deep understanding of their legacy systems, the potential risks if handled incorrectly. And Alex Barrett understands all this? Linda asked, though she clearly knew the answer. Alex Barrett needed 3 attempts to pass Harvard's basic data analytics course. She sat back, fingers drumming on the table. Catherine, let's be direct. Maxwell Technologies can't risk our digital transformation on an inexperienced CEO's son. Where are you going next? I smiled. Sometimes the best moves are the ones your opponents make for you. I'm starting Monday at Quantum Solutions, building a new enterprise transformation division. Quantum? She raised an eyebrow. Victoria Santos's company? The same. Complete autonomy, experienced team, and a focus on exactly the kind of complex integration projects Maxwell specializes in. Linda checked her watch. I have a board meeting at 11. Send me a proposal by end of day. Include timeline, team structure, and technical specifications. Already prepared, I handed her another folder. Just needs final numbers. She laughed. Always 3 steps ahead. This is why we trust you with our projects, Catherine. She stood to leave, then paused. Summit's going to regret this, aren't they? Tremendously. Back at Summit, I spent the morning organizing files and preparing transition documents. Not that Alex would understand them, but everything needed to be properly documented for what would come next. David stopped by around lunch, closing my office door. Half the teams already updated their resumes. Sarah got 3 calls from recruiters yesterday alone. Anyone talking to Quantum? He grinned. You tell me. Word is they're expanding their enterprise division. Need experienced consultants. I kept my expression neutral. Interesting timing. Very. By the way, Alex is holding his first team meeting at 2. Mandatory attendance. Want to bet how many buzzwords he fits into the first 5 minutes? I have more important things to do. I gestured at my packing boxes. Like documenting 12 years of client relationships that he's about to destroy. The afternoon brought a stream of visitors to my office. Longtime colleagues stopping by to express their disbelief, share rumors, or just say goodbye. Each one left with my personal email address and a knowing look. At 4:30, my phone buzzed, a message from Linda. Proposal reviewed. Board meeting went well. Need to discuss details. Dinner tonight? Before I could reply, another message popped up, this one from Victoria. Maxwell Technologies CTO just called. Well played, Catherine. Very well played. I smiled, remembering William Barrett's dismissive wave. No need for transition help, he'd said. He had no idea what was coming. At 5 p.m., Alex Barrett strutted into my office without knocking, still scrolling through his phone. So where are all the client files and stuff? He asked without looking up. Everything's documented in the shared drive, I replied. Though you might want to start with the basic methodology guides. Yeah, whatever. He cut me off. Dad says this job's pretty simple. Just gotta keep the clients happy, right? I'm thinking we'll start with some fresh ideas, shake things up a bit. I thought about Maxwell's complex AI integration project, the years of groundwork and relationship building, the technical intricacies that Alex couldn't begin to comprehend. Good luck with that. He finally looked up, frowning slightly at my tone. Hey, no hard feelings, right? Dad says sometimes we need to make room for new vision. You understand? Perfectly. I'm sure Maxwell Technologies will understand too. That got his attention. Maxwell? The big AI project client? Don't worry. I smiled. I'm sure your fresh ideas will impress them. Just remember they're investing $50 million in the integration. I'd hate for anything to go wrong. He shifted uncomfortably. Maybe you could write up some notes or something? Everything you need to know is in the documentation. Though you might want to learn what API integration framework means before your first client meeting. He left quickly after that, probably to Google API. At 7 p.m., I met Linda for dinner at Mistral. She was already reviewing the proposal I had sent, pages marked with sticky notes. Our board has some concerns about Summit's new leadership, she said as we ordered, particularly regarding the AI integration project. Understandable. They're also very interested in this new proposal, especially the technical architecture you've designed. She smiled. The one that's not covered by Summit's non-compete agreement. I took a sip of wine. Summit's agreement only covers specific implementations. This is an entirely new framework. Exactly what our legal team said. She pulled out a document. Which is why we'd like to discuss moving our business to Quantum Solutions. Effective immediately. The document was a letter of intent. Maxwell Technologies would terminate their contract with Summit Industries due to material changes in project leadership and concerns of technical capabilities. Victoria's expecting your call, I said. Linda signed the letter with a flourish. Already scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. I assume you'll be there. Wouldn't miss it. Later that night, as I packed the last items from my Summit office, my phone lit up with messages. David, Alex just tried to explain machine learning to the dev team. It was painful. Pretty sure he thinks AI means awesome ideas. Sarah, Quantum Solutions posted 6 new positions. Enterprise integration experience required. Coincidence? Victoria, meeting with Maxwell confirmed for 9 a.m. Bring your technical specs. And Catherine? The board wants to discuss fast-tracking your division's launch. I looked around my empty office one last time. 12 years of memories, achievements, relationships. All sacrificed for William Barrett's nepotism. Monday morning would be interesting. Very interesting indeed. My phone buzzed one final time. Linda again. Just sent the termination notice to Summit's board. Cited leadership concerns and technical capability gaps. Copy to all board members. Want to bet how long before they realize what's really happening? I smiled, turning off the lights in my office for the last time. They wanted fresh blood. I typed back. They're about to get it. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about showing exactly what was lost. And what happens when you value the wrong things. Summit Industries was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Monday morning at Quantum Solutions felt like stepping into another world. My new office, larger than the one at Summit, overlooked Boston Harbor. The morning sun glinted off the water, a fresh start. Victoria had already arrived, carrying 2 cups of premium coffee. Ready to shake up the industry? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A message from David. Total chaos here. Board called emergency meeting after Maxwell's termination letter. William Barrett, looks like he's about to explode. Another message followed quickly. Alex tried calling Maxwell's tech team. They hung up when he couldn't explain basic integration protocols. His dad's office door is locked, and everyone can hear yelling. I smiled, setting my phone aside. More than ready. The 9 a.m. meeting with Maxwell Technologies took place in Quantum's largest conference room. Linda brought her entire technical team, plus their legal department. Victoria sat beside me, watching as I walked through our implementation strategy. Timeline remains the same, I explained, pulling out detailed project plans. But with Quantum's enhanced infrastructure and my new team's expertise, we can actually accelerate certain integration phases. Linda's team nodded approvingly. They'd worked with me for years, trusted my technical judgment. More importantly, they understood exactly why we were all sitting in Quantum's offices instead of Summit's. One concern, Linda said, though her smile suggested it wasn't really a concern at all. Summit's legal team is claiming some of this technical architecture belongs to them. Victoria slid forward a document prepared by Quantum's lawyers. We've reviewed every line of code, every framework component. Everything Catherine's proposing was either developed independently or falls outside Summit's intellectual property claims. Besides, I added, pulling up a specific section of code, this is a completely new integration framework. Designed last weekend, actually. Linda laughed. while Alex Barrett was probably Googling what API means. Exactly. By 10:30, the contracts were signed. Maxwell Technologies was officially transferring their $50 million project and all future work to Quantum Solutions. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a call from Summit Industries, William Barrett himself. I let it go to voicemail. Speaking of Summit, Victoria said as our visitors left, "Ready for the next phase?" I nodded, pulling up another presentation. This one detailed my plans for Quantum's new Enterprise Solutions division, including the team I planned to build. "How many Summit employees are we expecting?" Victoria asked. By end of week, I checked my messages. At least 15. All top performers. Perfect. HR's ready with offer letters. The rest of Monday passed in a blur of meetings, planning sessions, and a steady stream of messages from Summit. William Barrett. Voicemail. "Catherine, we need to discuss this Maxwell situation immediately. Call me back." Alex Barrett. Email. "Hey, so like there might be some confusion about the Maxwell project stuff. Can you maybe explain some things? Dad's pretty upset." Summit Board Chairman. Email. "Ms. Mitchell, the board would like to schedule an urgent meeting regarding recent developments. Please advise your availability." I responded to none of them. Instead, I focused on building something new. My team at Quantum was taking shape quickly. Sarah arrived Tuesday morning to head our technical integration unit. Mike joined Wednesday as lead architect. By Thursday, most of Summit's top performers had submitted their resignations. "It's a mass exodus," David reported during our lunch meeting. "HR can't process exit paperwork fast enough. Alex is walking around like a lost puppy, trying to understand the technical documentation you left." "How's William taking it?" "Hasn't left his office in 2 days. Board members keep showing up for closed-door meetings. Stocks down 15% since Maxwell's announcement." I nodded, sliding an offer letter across the table. "Ready to join us?" He grinned, already pulling out a pen. "Been ready since they announced Alex's promotion." Friday morning brought the news I'd been waiting for. Summit Industries had called an emergency shareholder meeting. Reason: discussion of recent material changes in client relationships and personnel matters. Victoria appeared in my office doorway, waving her phone. "Seen the news?" "Just did. Their stock's down 23% now. Analysts are questioning the company's stability after losing Maxwell. Rumors about leadership problems." I smiled, remembering William's dismissive wave. Fresh blood has consequences. Around noon, Linda sent me a screenshot of an email from Alex Barrett, desperately trying to salvage Maxwell's business. It was filled with corporate buzzwords and demonstrated a complete lack of technical understanding. "Please tell me you have a better proposal ready," she wrote. I did. My team had spent the week refining our implementation strategy, incorporating innovations that Summit hadn't even considered. We presented Monday. At 2 p.m., Summit's board chairman called again. This time, I answered. "Catherine," he sounded tired. "I hope you can appreciate the difficult position we're in." "I appreciate that actions have consequences, Charles. The board, we may have acted hastily. If you're open to discussing a return." "I'm not." A long pause. "Catherine, be reasonable. The company's losing millions in value. Alex clearly isn't ready for this role. William knows he made a mistake." "No," I cut him off. "William knows he's about to lose his job. The board knows they backed the wrong horse. And you all know that Maxwell isn't the only client who trusts me personally with their technical strategy." Another pause. "How many more?" Guess you'll find out soon enough. By end of day, the news was official. William Barrett had stepped down as CEO of Summit Industries, effective immediately. Alex's appointment was under review, but it was too late. Monday morning, I stood before Quantum's board, presenting our division's first-month projections. The numbers were staggering. Maxwell Technologies is just the beginning, I explained. 3 more major Summit clients have already reached out about transferring their business. Combined annual revenue, approximately $120 million. Victoria beamed. The board members nodded approvingly. Moreover, I continued, we've acquired top talent from Summit's technical teams, people who understand these client relationships, who've built trust over years. My phone buzzed. Another message from Summit's board chairman. Final offer. Name your price, please. I ignored it, focusing on my presentation. By end of quarter, we project our division's revenue will exceed Summit's total annual earnings. That evening, I walked along the harbor, reflecting on how much had changed in just 2 weeks. My new office at Quantum was fully settled. My team was thriving, energized by the opportunity to build something new. Our client pipeline was overflowing. My phone buzzed one last time. A news alert. Summit Industries announces restructuring amid client exodus, stock down 40% year to date. Below that was a LinkedIn update from Alex Barrett. Excited to announce I'm returning to graduate school to deepen my technical knowledge. I smiled, remembering William's words, fresh blood. That's what this company needs. He'd been right about one thing. Summit did need fresh blood. They just didn't realize it would be flowing to their competitors. 1 year later, I stood in Quantum's largest conference room, addressing our now 200-person Enterprise Solutions division. On the screen behind me, a simple graph told the story. Quantum Solutions. Revenue up 180% year-over-year. Summit Industries. Filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Success, I told my team, isn't about titles or family connections. It's about value. Real value. The kind you can't fake with buzzwords or MBA degrees. I looked out at the faces, many former Summit employees who'd followed me to build something better. People who'd been overlooked, undervalued, or pushed aside for someone's son. They thought replacing me with an inexperienced heir was good business. I continued. They didn't realize that real leadership isn't inherited, it's earned. Victoria joined me at the podium to make a special announcement. Our division was being spun off as its own company. I would be CEO. As applause filled the room, I thought about William Barrett's condescending smile, about Alex's clueless arrogance, about a board that valued nepotism over merit. They'd wanted fresh blood. They got it. And the business world had learned a valuable lesson about the true cost of choosing the wrong leader. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising higher than your opponents ever dreamed possible. And we were still rising. They got it. And the business world had learned a valuable lesson about the true cost of choosing the wrong leader. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising higher than your opponents ever dreamed possible. And we were still rising.